Hi everybody, it's Kammi from Flash University, and today we're talking about romantic characters. Have you ever read a story or watched a movie where the romance partners either struck you as odd or something about it felt off? Maybe you didn't like it for some reason? Well, today I'm going to tell you how you can solve that problem. So let's go ahead and dive in. Tip number one is to know psychology, and I know I've mentioned this before and I'm going to keep mentioning it because it's an important part of writing that's often neglected. Now, I've read a lot of books where the romance is actually thinly veiled abuse. So there's a difference between passion and abuse. There is there is sexual abuse, there is mental, there is emotional, there's physical, there are all kinds of abuse. It's not romantic to hit somebody. It's not romantic to push when somebody doesn't want to. Stop touting abuse as if it's romance. No psychology. Also, there's a difference between dark and brooding, which is a very common stereotype for a male protagonist. So dark and brooding versus moody and really dysfunctional. A lot of people, unintentionally, a lot of writers make their male romantic characters psychopaths, actually, unintentionally, which is funny, because the whole goal is to make them, that dark and that mysterious, but they make them so that they have a hard time connecting with other human beings, and that is either something that comes through fear, or it comes because there's something in your brain that keeps you from connecting with other people, which makes that antisocial personality disorder, which is the new name for either psychopath or sociopath. So unfortunately, a lot of writers are unintentionally creating romantic partners that are psychopaths. So tip number one is know psychology. Know what you're doing before you do it. And then tip number two is to create obstacles. Now, the thing with this is there are a lot of tropes in this area as well. A lot of things that you really should, be careful what you do here. The CW is known for having high intense relationships, but that's like having a season finale every episode, and so not as many people make it all the way through the whole series. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking for maximum impact every moment, that high intensity? Or are you looking for, man, they just can't catch a break, things like that. Again, we're coming back to dysfunctional and knowing psychology, because the on again, off again is one of the stereotypes. That's one of the ideas or one of the things I've seen done. It is a dysfunctional relationship, and you need to know that going into writing about it, so that you write about it in a way where it's obvious to your audience that this is dysfunctional. And then some ideas about other things that could get in the way with relationships are money, distance, time, families, different background culture. And then an idea I had for you guys that I'm actually kind of excited about is if you're in America, we have our specific tropes. If you're in another country, they have their specific tropes. So my idea for you is to do a little bit of market research in another country. So for me, I've been binge watching Korean dramas and Chinese dramas and things like that, and their stereotypes, well, not the stereotypes, excuse me, their tropes are different than ours, and so you can actually get ideas from books and movies in other countries and apply them here, and they're not going to feel like, oh, I've seen this 1,000 times, because they're going to be different for people who live where you are, because they're from a different country. So tip number three is to know the characters' backgrounds. This includes family, this includes culture, this includes language, things like that. And these are actually more important than they seem. A lot of relationships are complex and difficult, but when you add in layers of cultural differences, it actually increases the opportunity for misunderstandings. And then also, I heard a counselor say once that anyone can have a happy, thriving relationship if they heal the pain that they experienced in their family of origin. We all have pain. Maybe mom didn't show up for your soccer games, maybe your parents are divorced, maybe whatever. But you have to understand that when we get into relationships, we all bring that baggage with us. And so your characters are going to bring that baggage with you. And even if you don't feel like it is baggage, our family of origin, where we grow up, teaches us how the world works. And so our understanding of the world and how we approach the world is actually called a thought world. And when we get two people together, they have different thought worlds. And so if you know their background, then you can better understand their thought world and how that can be an obstacle or be the thing that's pulling them together or create tension throughout the story. Know how they're the same and how they're different, essentially. So tip number 4 is attachment styles. So this is in psychology. Attachment styles are how we connect with other human beings, right? So there's a healthy attachment style, and it's called secure attachment. And that's where the people can come and go, and they each have their own individual hobbies, and they know how to really support each other, be there for each other when they need it, and then go off and do their own thing, and then come back. That's a healthy attachment style. From there, there are several more. There's 4 famously discussed. So there's the secure attachment style, and then there's dismissive avoidant. That's somebody who avoids sharing any emotion or really connecting deeply with people. There's fearful avoidant, somebody who wants to connect with people. Another way of saying it is come here, go away. And then there's anxious preoccupied, and they create what's called a fantasy bond, a pseudo relationship where they don't actually connect with each other, but in their brain they're connected, and this is their relationship, and this is how they do things, but they never go on dates, they never connect with one another. When they do get together, it's only with other people, or it's only where they're doing something that doesn't involve actually connecting with each other. And so then the next one, there's 4 that I mentioned that are the main ones that are discussed, but there's one more that's called the forgotten type, and this is disorganized attachment style. Ugh, I'm stumbling on my words. Anyway, so the disorganized attachment style is often children who grew up in homes where either one of their parents abused them or one of their parents abused each other, or there was a lot of fear around a particular parent. Fear of abandonment, fear of abuse and retribution, just fear in general. And so they grow up knowing that you have to connect with people to get your needs met, but being afraid of connecting with people, and their relationships with people end up being very dysfunctional, very frenzied, very on again, off again. That's the disorganized attachment style. So you can see how all of those attachment styles are going to drastically change how someone would show up in a relationship, how they would support their partner, or how they would need to receive support. And then tip number 5, that leads me into it, is the 5 love languages. And these are really important because they are how we communicate our love to someone, and then they're how we receive that person's love. You can get people in a long-term relationship who don't know for sure if the other person loves them, and counselors have talked about the one spouse being like, I don't know what to do anymore, they don't know if I love them, and of course I love them, I do all these things, and the other one's saying, but I don't want all these things, I want this one. I want this one thing from this person, and I'm not getting it, so how I don't feel loved. Well, that's because their love languages are different. It's not because one person is selfish. It's not because one person is I don't know, I'm going back to selfish, but it's not because there's necessarily anything inherently wrong with their relationship. It's a miscommunication issue. So the 5 love languages are words of affirmation, where they need lots of compliments, lots of support verbally, that you're doing great, you're on the right track, I love your ideas, I love compliments, basically. Gifts, people who give gifts to show love, and people who receive gifts to show love. And this is not necessarily someone who's materialistic. A gift could be a card. It could be, you know, I saw this at the thrift store and it reminded me of you. It could be, I made this for you, things like that. But it is the giving and the receiving of things that let that person know that you love them, and that they tell you in return that they love you. So words of affirmation are compliments, giving gifts, quality time. Now, this is not quantity time. This is quality, with deep one-on-one connection, where they feel in that moment that they are the most important thing, that nothing else trumps being with that person. And then there is touch. And this does not have to be sexual. It can be holding hands, it can be touching faces, it can be stroking hair, it can be a tap on the shoulder if it's not a romantic relationship. If it's platonic, it can be, you know, telling somebody it'll be okay. You know, somebody whose love language is touch, they're going to need to be physically touched in some way to feel loved. And then number 5 is acts of, oh, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, I lost count. Number 5 is acts of service, and this is somebody who needs their partner to come and help them when they're struggling with something. See that the dishes aren't done and pitch in, or see that the lawn hasn't been mowed in a while, or that the car hasn't been washed, and just do those things to show that they're showing up, that they're noticing what's important to that person. And so these love languages are going to be really differentiating. They're going to really change how someone feels love and gives love. And so if you don't know what their love language is, you can't really write it into the story, right? Not everybody wants to receive a romantic poem. I have a sister that would not be her favorite. She would rather have someone do the dishes. Do you see the sink? It's dirty. Just do the dishes. Then I know you love me. Don't write me a poem. Right? So we're all very, very different. I love poems. I'm a writer, so I would like to be told what someone loves about me, right? So we're very, very different in how we give and receive love. So those are my 5 tips. If you saw value, please click like and subscribe, and that lets YouTube know that I'm putting out valuable content. It supports my channel. If you're curious about this further and you want some stuff to study, I have some links for some things down below in the description below, and they are affiliate links, and that means that I get a commission, but you still pay the same price. So I'll have some links below for some stuff for you to look at.